Marvel Studios wasn't always the box office juggernaut it is today. Before the record-shattering Avengers Endgame and before Black Panther became a cultural phenomenon, Marvel was just another struggling comic book company. Compared to industry giants like Warner Brothers, Disney, and Sony who dominated Hollywood, Marvel was the underdog. In 2008, they did something no one thought would work. They gambled everything. And by everything, I mean the entire future of their studio. They bet on risky decisions, unproven heroes, and ideas that could have easily flopped. But instead, they changed Hollywood forever.
And I am Iron Man.
Let's break down the biggest risks Marvel took and how those bold moves built the MCU. The year is 2008, and Marvel Studios is placing a high-stakes bet on Iron Man to kick off what they hope will become a shared cinematic universe. But here's the catch. Iron Man wasn't a household name. Kids idolized Spider-Man, and Batman had dominated pop culture for decades. Tony Stark? To most, he was just a guy in a suit of armor. So why Iron Man? Marvel needed a character they owned outright, no licensing issues. And more importantly, they believed in Tony Stark's potential to connect with modern audiences. But they didn't just gamble on the character, they risked their entire future. Using $525 million of collateral, Marvel financed the movie themselves. If the film flopped, the studio wouldn't just lose money. It would lose rights to cornerstone characters like Thor and Captain America. That kind of risk doesn't just take guts, it takes absolute conviction. Now, let's talk casting. Robert Downey Jr. wasn't just a choice. He was the choice. Director Jon Favreau fought hard to cast Downey, seeing the actor's tumultuous past as the perfect parallel to Tony Stark's flawed genius. As Favreau put it, the best and worst moments of Robert's life have been in the public eye. He had to find an inner balance to overcome obstacles far beyond his career. That's Tony Stark. Downey's charisma turned Stark into what Favreau described as a likable asshole.
Big man in a suit of armor. Take that off, what are you?
Genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist.
And his personal redemption arc added authenticity to the character. Essentially, Downey wasn't just acting, he was Tony Stark. Now, making one hit movie is impressive. But Marvel's real gamble was introducing the idea of a shared cinematic universe. This was more than a single movie. It was a long-term commitment to multiple interconnected films. They teased this with Nick Fury's now iconic line in Iron Man.
I'm here to talk to you about the Avenger Initiative.
For most studios at the time, this idea would have been laughable. Hollywood wasn't used to interconnected storytelling on this scale. Franchises like Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings followed a linear story arc. What Marvel proposed was something entirely different. A sprawling, multi-threaded narrative where each movie would serve as a puzzle piece in a much larger picture. This was an enormous gamble. Audiences weren't used to keeping track of plot threads across multiple movies. Marvel's plan required patience, precise storytelling, and the kind of fan dedication that could easily backfire. If one movie bombed, the entire interconnected plan could collapse. Let's not forget that no studio had done this before. If Marvel failed, it would have been a cautionary tale for decades. But Marvel relied on more than storytelling. They focused on world building. Movies like Thor introduced characters while expanding the MCU's geography, from Earth to Asgard. Captain America, the first Avenger, told Steve Rogers' story while laying the groundwork for future films, including S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra, which became crucial to the MCU's development. The real magic, however, was in how Marvel maintained tonal consistency. Despite each film having its own unique feel, Iron Man's tech-driven wit, Thor's Shakespearean drama, they all felt connected. And when the Avengers finally united 6 heroes on screen, audiences realized they were witnessing something unprecedented. The shared universe gamble paid off in spectacular fashion, delivering one of the highest-grossing films of all time and cementing Marvel's dominance in Hollywood. By 2012, Marvel had introduced Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, and the Hulk in their standalone films. But their next big challenge was bringing them all together in the Avengers. While the idea of a team-up movie sounds thrilling now, back then it was a logistical nightmare. Could audiences really care about so many protagonists at once? And more importantly, could they coexist on screen without overshadowing each other? Joss Whedon, the director of the Avengers, faced the monumental task of balancing screen time, character arcs, and an engaging plot. The film's success hinged on whether viewers could buy into these heroes working as a team. Marvel's bold move here was about more than the ensemble cast. It was about the clashing egos and personalities within the story. Iron Man's snark, Captain America's righteousness, and Thor's regal demeanor all had to fit seamlessly. Here's a fun detail. The Avengers almost didn't happen the way we know it. Edward Norton was originally cast as Bruce Banner, but was replaced by Mark Ruffalo after creative differences. Ruffalo brought a quieter, more introspective take on the Hulk, which audiences loved. Another uncommonly known fact: Chris Evans initially turned down the role of Captain America several times due to anxiety about long-term commitment. He eventually accepted after Robert Downey Jr. encouraged him. One key factor that fans often overlook is how Marvel used the Avengers to redefine blockbuster action. The Battle of New York was a CGI spectacle. It was a carefully choreographed sequence that highlighted each hero's unique abilities. From Iron Man zipping through the skyline to Hulk smashing aliens, every moment felt like a comic book panel come to life. And did you know that the shawarma scene in the post-credits was filmed after the movie premiered? The cast came together for this humorous, low-key moment, adding a quirky cherry on top of an action-packed finale. Marvel's gamble on the Avengers wasn't just a box office risk, it was a cultural one. If this movie had flopped, it would have damaged every hero's individual franchise. But the film shattered expectations, earning over $1.5 billion worldwide and proving that audiences were ready for a new kind of cinematic experience. After solidifying its position with blockbuster hits, Marvel doubled down on one of its greatest strengths: taking risks. But this time, they did it by betting on characters and concepts that no one believed could succeed. Take Guardians of the Galaxy, for instance. A talking raccoon, a sentient tree that only says "I am Groot," and a ragtag group of space misfits. It sounded like the premise of a bizarre Saturday morning cartoon, not a Hollywood blockbuster. Many skeptics predicted it would flop, but instead, Guardians became a massive success, earning over $770 million worldwide. The film's unique humor, dazzling visuals, and killer soundtrack proved that audiences craved something different. Then there was Ant-Man, a hero whose superpower is shrinking. Instead of going for a conventional superhero story, Marvel leaned into comedy, crafting a heist movie with a heart. The decision to cast Paul Rudd, known primarily for his comedic roles, was another unconventional choice. Ant-Man might have been smaller in scale, but it proved that humor could work just as well as spectacle in the superhero genre. Marvel's gamble on Black Panther wasn't just a financial risk, it was a cultural one. The film's commitment to showcasing African culture with an almost entirely black cast and crew was groundbreaking. Marvel poured resources into making Wakanda feel like a real, vibrant world. The result? Black Panther wasn't just a box office smash, it became a cultural phenomenon, sparking global conversations about representation and winning 3 Academy Awards. And then there's Thor: Ragnarok. Thor's previous films leaned heavily into Shakespearean drama, but Taika Waititi turned the formula on its head, injecting the franchise with wild humor and neon-drenched visuals. Turning Thor into a comedic character could have alienated fans, but it reinvigorated the character and the franchise, making Ragnarok one of the most beloved films in the MCU. Each of these projects was a leap of faith, proving that Marvel wasn't afraid to break the mold. With Avengers Endgame, Marvel achieved something extraordinary, concluding over a decade of interconnected storytelling in a way that satisfied millions of fans. Tony Stark's sacrifice, Steve Rogers' long-awaited dance with Peggy, and the electrifying moment when he called out his famous line gave audiences the emotional payoff they had been waiting for.
Avengers! Assemble.
Behind the scenes, the making of Endgame was equally monumental. Filmed alongside Infinity War, the production was a logistical feat. To protect the story's secrets, the Russo brothers gave actors fake scripts and even shot alternate scenes to keep everyone guessing. When it came to the scale of the film, the numbers speak for themselves. With over 14,000 visual effects shots, it became one of the most ambitious productions in cinematic history. The film's impact was felt worldwide. It shattered countless box office records, becoming the highest-grossing movie of all time before Avatar reclaimed the title. It cemented its place as a cultural phenomenon while simultaneously setting the stage for the multiverse saga, Marvel's next chapter. Its emotional highs, groundbreaking visuals, and intricate storytelling gave fans everything they hoped for, and more. But did you know the iconic line, "I love you 3000, came straight from Robert Downey Jr.'s real life? One of his children used to say it to him, and when the Russo brothers heard the story, they decided to weave it into the script. This simple, heartfelt line connected Tony Stark's journey to the audience, leaving everyone teary-eyed by the film's end. Speaking of storytelling ambition, an early draft of the final battle included a surreal twist involving the Living Tribunal. Doctor Strange was originally supposed to pull Thanos into a cosmic trial judged by this powerful entity, a moment that would have expanded the MCU's cosmic lore. While it ultimately didn't make the cut, it reflects how Endgame dared to dream big, even in its most chaotic moments. With such a monumental conclusion to the Infinity Saga, the MCU faced a daunting challenge. Where to go next? Post-Endgame, the multiverse saga began, bringing infinite possibilities and chaos. As fans began to feel the weight of this sprawling new era, a certain red-suited anti-hero stepped in to save the day. After Disney acquired 21st Century Fox, bringing characters like the X-Men and Deadpool into the MCU seemed daunting. Yet, Deadpool 3 turned out to be a game-changer, blending irreverent humor with multiverse madness in a way that reinvigorated the franchise and reminded audiences why they fell in love with Marvel in the first place. Marvel's rise from a risky idea to a cinematic empire has redefined blockbusters and left an indelible mark on pop culture. With the Infinity Saga behind us and the multiverse saga unfolding, Marvel shows no signs of slowing down. But where does the MCU go from here? And how will the multiverse evolve under Deadpool's chaos-filled spotlight? Stick around for the next deep dive, where we'll explore how one merc with a mouth might just change everything. See you then!